Between the 1930s and 50s, Australia sought to establish itself as a key player in the international tourism industry. The government hoped to rebrand their country's image to one that matches the Western world's modern perspectives, and by commissioning radical, modernist designers to produce internationally distributed posters for the Australian National Travel Association, or the ANTA, a new image of Australia was recognised by tourists and even its own citizens, one that portrayed a healthy and carefree country of sunshine and surf. By participating in the tourism industry, modernist designers such as Gert Sellheim were able to build a reputation for Australia that is still relevant to this day. With the rapidly changing times of the early 20th century and the advancement of the industrial era, a prosperous new world was envisioned by designers. With the development of new materials and faster machinery, particularly modes of transport, communication, and mass production, urban lifestyles proliferated, and the Western culture began to value lifestyles of leisure, employment, and consumerism. Innovative German designers of the Bauhaus pioneered modernism, which materialized to express the spirit of the times. It is summarized most effectively by Edgar Kaufman Jr. when he emphasized that modern design should benefit from contemporary advances and should be simple, avoiding extraneous enrichment. These modernist principles heavily influenced and progressed commercial design and its universal language. Despite being immensely popular in the mid to late 20th century, posters were seldom used in the Western world to advertise products, much less the ideas and places seen in ANTA posters. However, in the 1860s, French artist Jules Charest, the father of the modern poster, invented a 3-stone lithographic printing process that allowed artists to produce vivid and colourful works. This development in technology made poster advertising very attractive to businesses and instigated its popularity in Australia. In consequence, techniques such as the red while running approach were conceptualised, which suggested that posters should communicate messages efficiently through vibrant graphics and memorable slogans made up of alliterations and hyperboles. This approach emphasised that a well-drawn picture will tell more at one glance than a whole page of text. Though some critics labelled the posters as trite artistry and implied that they were just crass additions to the linguistic landscape, their presence was widely embraced by Australians. The 1930s was the golden age of poster design in Australia, with posters becoming the main communicative advertising for businesses. Observing London Transport's profitable posters, Victorian Railways commissioned modernist commercial designers such as Percy Trumpf, James Northfield and Gert Sellheim to create eye-catching and innovative advertising posters that encouraged Australians to travel by train and explore their country. Strategically, their posters tended to promote destinations rather than journeys, and encouraged Victorians to holiday to the mountains, at the seaside or in the bush, as they had more money in their pockets and more time for leisure pursuits. The Eat More Fruit campaign was extremely successful in its humorous invigoration of Victorians to travel to rural locations and eat more Australian produce, resulting in both markets flourishing. Reacting to the major success of these posters and the failure of Australia's international tourist economy, the ANTA was established in 1929, aiming to portray a new Australia filled to the brim with lavish landscapes, carefree and outdoorsy attitudes, and an immeasurable amount of activities. These posters were distributed overseas, bombarding Western European and some Asian countries with modern Australian imagery in the hope of gaining overseas attention. The ANTA's employment of modernist designers created a sense of national identity and advertised Australia as a youthful place of sunshine and freedom by focusing heavily on Australia's cities, bushlands, and most prominently, beaches. In these warm, beach-centric posters, Australians became a symbol of strength and health, with their bronzed, chiselled bodies dressed quite adventurously in revealing bathing suits, interestingly contrasting against the conservative beachwear seen in traditional posters. One of the main pioneers of this imagery was Gert Sellheim, who represented the seaside as a site of unfettered hedonism, with his tanned figures flaunting their bodies unabashedly and attracting a younger, more egalitarian and less genteel demographic. Designers not only built the micro-narrative, that the beach is an escape to nature for all, but also made Australia famous for its beach culture, a stereotype that continues today. However, with a 21st century perspective, it is clear that there is a lack of diversity in these posters, with commercial designers showing only Caucasian Australians in their imagery to align with the White Australia policy and establish a single identity for the nation. One of the most influential and radical designers of Australia is Gert Sellheim, who is recognised for bringing graphic modernism to Australia. Sellheim was born on the 31st of December in 1901 in Estonia, inheriting rich family traditions in art, music, and languages, and eventually studying architecture around Europe. Anticipating German repression, Sellheim was a European immigrant, arriving in Australia in 1926 and moving to Melbourne 4 years later. As an industrial and commercial designer, he created posters for Victorian Railways and the ANTA, spearheading the significant graphic imprint he left on Australia's history, culture, and international image. Sellheim employs modernist design principles to establish his own iconographic style in his travel posters. His angular, stylized figures, bereft of any unnecessary detail, are surrounded by patterns of geometric shapes, horizontal and diagonal compositions, and vibrant colour palettes that complement the cool ocean water and golden sand. Innovatively, Sellheim integrated playful and dynamic typography with his visuals, and occasionally toyed with photo montage, reinforcing how bold, adventurous, and witty his posters were at the time. With influences from Cubism, Dadaism, and Modernism, his work greatly contrasts that of other ANTA designers like Tromp or Northfield, who took more detail-oriented illustrative Art Deco approaches, with realistic techniques like light casting. While they embellished the Australian landscape, Sellheim represented it. One of his most famous works, Australia Surf Club, is composed with multiple perspectives and is devoid of any unnecessary detail, with 5 bronzed and healthy figures positioned diagonally across the poster and performing life-saving training. Sellheim uses flat areas of colour and a limited colour palette to advertise the carefree warmth and active nature of Australia. Interestingly, Sellheim does not just build stereotypes, but understands the pre-established consumer beliefs and challenges them for economic gain. For instance, in his Mount Buffalo Take a Kodak photo montage poster, he aims to correct the impression that Mount Buffalo is solely a winter resort, by displaying the summer activities that can be undertaken there, including horse riding, tennis, and bushwalking. The intent of these campaigns was to simultaneously encourage and challenge stereotypes promoting Australia as an ideal, all-round travel destination for everyone. Unfortunately, many factors contributed to the downfall of poster advertising, but its impact on Australian culture, identity, and advertising has prevailed. World War II and the Great Depression virtually halted Australia's tourism industry, both nationally and internationally, with their middle-class audiences having little money to spend on leisure. Furthermore, new technologies such as colour photography and screen printing diminished the popularity of lithograph posters, and now, in the digital age, advertisers opt for more modern modes of promotion, such as through social media, product placement, and TV advertisements. Despite this, ANTA's legacy and strategies still influence the market today, particularly within one of Tourism Australia's most recent campaigns, Undiscover Australia. In 2018, the TV and digital advertising campaign simultaneously challenged and reinforced the very stereotypes that ANTA's campaign had established in the minds of the international market. Stereotypes such as Australia is a daytime destination or is all about the amazing beaches. It sought to reinforce that while our beach culture continues to appeal, Australia still has more to offer. Ironically, this technique mirrors those that were used by the ANTA when they sought to promote the traditional view of destinations, while also highlighting that the breadth of options were available to travellers. However, This current advertisement differs through its postmodernism, immersive video medium, and seeks to highlight Australia's multiculturalism through its choice in modern Indigenous music. Tourism Australia aimed to welcome more tourists by appealing to a range of demographics and successfully adapted ANTA's effective techniques for a modern, digital audience. Though Sellheim's cultural and artistic impact is still felt today, Australia's identity has changed drastically since the golden age of poster design. As well as Western design moving from modernism to a more radical postmodernism, Australia too has developed from a dated and exclusive white Australia image to a more welcoming and multicultural country, as seen through celebrations such as Harmony Day. During the decline of the ANTA poster dynasty, Sellheim began tackling other endeavours and later died on the 3rd of January in 1970 in Sydney, Australia. However, his artistic merit is still appreciated years after his death, not only through current minimal art and graphic design, but also economically, with Australia Surf Club being sold for $240,000 at New York's Swan Gallery in 2011. Sellheim and other ANTA designers developed a national identity for a growing Australia, one that is recognised within the design community for their modernist contributions, nationally through building a culture that valued health, the outdoors and adventures, and internationally when promoting Australia around the world.